Now, the fact that Hitler maintained an ideologically fixed strategic view that countenanced war did not prevent him from showing strategic and tactical flexibility. One of the first foreign policy steps that he pursued after rising to power and securing his position by coordinating, in quotation marks, all other aspects of German society was to enter into a 10-year non-aggression pact with Poland in 1934. The goal, of course, was to wrong-foot the British and French, as well as to weaken the strategic Franco-Polish alliance, and to buy time for him to build up German military forces in violation of the limits of the Treaty of Versailles, at first secretly, and after March 1935, openly. Through the Anschluss, or annexation, of Austria in March 1938, the Munich Agreement in September of 1938, and the final occupation of Bohemia and Moravia in March 1939. Although these absorbed the attention of foreign policy experts, Hitler's plans to attack Poland remained fixed, as he revealed to his generals no later than February 10, 1939, when they drew up the invasion plans called Case White. The questions about war became one only of timing and of its scope, with Hitler seeking, as powerfully as he could, to prevent Britain and France from following through on their April 1939 guarantee of the territorial integrity of Poland, which he sought to do by entering in August 1939 into the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with the Soviet Union, which provided openly for non-aggression between Germany and the Soviet Union, and secretly for a division of Poland and the Baltic republics. This was another virtuoso display of tactical flexibility or unscrupulousness. The road to the assault on Gleiwitz in Silesia and the bombardment of the Westerplatte forts by the battleship Schleswig-Holstein at 4:40 in the morning on September 1st was clear. Hitler's tripartite fixation, then, with Lebensraum, racial enemies, and anti-Bolshevism ultimately led to his invasion of the Soviet Union in June 1941, and overreaching when, combined with his contemptuous declaration of war on the United States on December 11, 1941, led to the ultimate defeat of National Socialist Germany. Was it inevitable? Probably so. Even before E.H. Carr summarized the entire period from 1919 to 39 as the 20 years crisis, historians and others argued that the unresolved nationalisms that led to and survived World War I, combined with revolution, technological advance, and economic crisis, created in Europe a tinderbox likely to lead to war from one source or another. The conservative nationalist German elites, who overthrew the Weimar Constitution in May 1932 and struck their Faustian bargain with the National Socialists in January 1933, disdained Republican democracy more than they feared war. And the course of the war, the opportunity and cover that it provided, that it presented for a descent into barbarism unseen in Europe since the 17th century, takes us to my second theme. Hitler's talks to his generals and his political testament written in the spring of 1938 as he turned 50 made it clear that he linked wartime conditions and his notions of racial purity. Acts that he believed indispensable to secure and preserve the racial purity, and please read the scare quotes around that every time I say it. Actions he believed indispensable to secure and preserve racial purity of the German people could only be undertaken under the cover of the relaxation of moral inhibitions inevitably attendant upon the nature of modern mechanized warfare. At the same time that the invasion of Poland began, National Socialist Germany took 2 steps in its campaign of murder that culminated in the extermination camps, most powerfully symbolized by the single name, Auschwitz. First, SS action groups, Einsatzgruppen, accompanied the Wehrmacht into Poland with lists of leading Polish government officials, intellectuals, and other important people, and orders to find them and kill them. They also had orders to kill without mercy any resistance partisans. In this violence, some 8,000 to 9,000 of the Polish Jews fell victim to these killing units, as compared to 60,000 to 80,000 Poles. As we know from Jan Gross and others, Jews in Poland faced danger from some of their Polish neighbors as well, while some Poles were the righteous and lent their help to their Jewish neighbors. Second, Hitler in October 1939, but retroactively to September 1st, approved the T4 program to euthanize disabled Germans at various locations in the expanded Germany. A program that developed techniques of mass death and a cadre of experts adept at implementing them. An instrumentalized view of human life, which drew a distinction between the racially and hereditarily pure and the so-called life unworthy of life, accompanied even the opening phase of the war. Historians such as Omer Bartov at Brown University have shown definitively that the brutality of war on the Eastern Front far overshadowed the more correct conduct of war in the West. Each subsequent advance by the Wehrmacht in the East was shadowed by Einsatzgruppen throughout the Balkans in 1940 and 41, culminating in Operation Barbarossa, the invasion of the Soviet Union in June 1941. Altogether, these action groups murdered at least 1.5 million people, mostly Jews. Now, National Socialist policy in Germany had centered on persecution of German Jews since its very rise to power in January 1939. We know the litany. The Nuremberg laws of September 1935 had effectively stripped Jews of their rights as citizens in Germany, and the Kristallnacht pogrom of November 9, 1938 led to mass arrests and a final frenzy of emigration for those who had the means to obtain precious entry visas to reluctant foreign havens. It was no secret that the outbreak of war would bring further suffering to Jews, as Hitler had threatened in a public speech on January 30th of 1939, the 6th anniversary of his accession to the office of Chancellor, quote, "Today I will once more be a prophet. If the international Jewish financiers, inside and outside Europe, should succeed in plunging the nations once again into a world war, then the result will not be the Bolshevization of the earth and thus the victory of Jewry, but the annihilation of the Jewish race in Europe." So Hitler's worldview from the beginning firmly linked warfare with the extermination of Jews. Now, the scale of action of war on the Russian front, combined with the morale effects of daily killing on the scale conducted by the Einsatzgruppen and other units, by late 1941 had brought about chaotic conditions that begged for a regularization of this system. Two historical schools of interpretation of the origins of the final solution have emerged. The so-called intentionalist school, which argues that the Shoah took place and attained its organized industrial aspect of the death camps as a result of the intention of Hitler, of National Socialist ideology and policy, or of the German people in their majority, the intention of one or the other of those groups to murder the Jews of Europe.